Greetings, this is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and today we'll take a look at a couple of films, beginning with Precious, a film directed by Lee Daniels, which I saw thanks to Netflix. I was very impressed by the film. It is both one that stirs up ideas of hope, while also not dispelling a kind of depression about the story. It is basically about an overweight, sexually abused and otherwise abused, impoverished 16-year-old, a mother of one, pregnant with another, who is trying to make her way out, doesn't really think that she has any chance, sometimes even fantasizes about suicide, piano dropping on her or something of this sort. That she should be obliterated, erased from life along with her family and so forth. But on the other hand, has fantasies in which she escapes to stardom. It might be called her Oprah fantasies, but at any rate, she does have this outlet, and it's kind of interesting to see the transition, something akin to the ugly duckling becoming the beautiful swan. So that element is in there. The film opens up with a shot of a bridge. It's just fractional and close up. And yet there is a symbol in it of an escape, a bridge over troubled water, the possibility of hope from the very outset. Beneath the overhang of this fractional piece of a bridge, we see a golden scarf hanging from a lamppost. It becomes loose and flutters away, and it brings a certain touch of magic and escape to a gritty existence. From this particular image, there is a cut to a scene, a fantasy scene, in which Clarice, Precious Jones, is being approached by a beautiful fairy godmother dressed in orange, who bestows the gift of the orange scarf, wraps it about her neck. We see Precious receiving it demurely. She's been wearing a kind of a black and white patterned dress. And it's like some sort of ritual. We cut from this scene to a shot of Clarice kind of going towards school. Has I believe, a backpack, and we see that she's a plump lass, sturdy looking, and she's played, by the way, by Gabourey Sidibe. And her mom, who is sensationally played by Monique, is at home receiving welfare. We follow Precious to her school class, and we see her within her math class, which is taught by Mr. Witcher. She has fantasies also about Mr. Witcher, and kind of thinks that he likes her, she likes him, and has kind of a fantasy that maybe he will invite her to Westchester to live. She does have a few instances in this film in which she seems to see white people as a kind of existing in a kind of a neverland, so that in some ways they have a kind of fairy tale-like existence, I think, relative to what she experiences. And part of this is gained from watching television, in which you have a fairly unreal presentation of white life and every other kind of life. But anyway, Mr. Witcher in the class is struggling to keep order, and he remonstrates a couple of lads out in the vicinity of Precious who are getting a little bit rowdy, and he says words to the effect, "You boys settle down." And then one of them makes an issue about the use of the word boy, and we have a kind of a confused moment for the teacher. And then the lad who had kind of back-talked to the teacher is smacked pretty hard by Precious, who basically tells him to shut up. And the class continues. And in a kind of like a narrative of Precious, it's not spoken. It's like she's sharing her thoughts. She makes it known that she wanted Mr. Witcher to understand that she had his back covered. He summons her shortly thereafter to the front. I think class is pretty much coming to an end anyhow, but she is told to go to the principal's office. And she does so, grabs her books, and she reports to a Mrs. Lichtenstein, who is the principal or someone close there too, who begins to question Clarice about her home life. She begins to note that Clarice has one child and begins to badger her. Are you pregnant? Do you have another child coming? And so forth. Clarice is pretty much non-committal for this reason. That night, actually, they had the doorbell ringing. Clarice thinks it's crackheads and so forth. She hates to have that happen. Apparently it happens often. And she goes over and tells the person ringing to stop that ringing and so forth. It keeps on going, and finally Mom says, "Stupid, why don't you press the button to hear what the person downstairs is saying." And when that's done, it's Mrs. Lichtenstein, and she advises Precious that she has a new school to attend, an alternate school on 125th Street in Harlem, and it's called One Each Teach One, Each One Teach One, and Each One Teach One is going to be her new school. So Mrs. Lichtenstein goes on off. During this whole thing, at one point, Clarice threatens to kick her ass if she doesn't stop and go. So it's by no means a friendly reception for Mrs. Lichtenstein, but she does get the message across, and Clarice understood it. Now, Mom is not at all happy about going to this alternate school, which she sort of interprets as being an elite school of some sort, and her daughter putting on airs and now thinks she's too good to go to the welfare office and so forth like this. Plus, being very angry at her daughter for bringing that white bitch to ring at her door. So you're getting all kinds of sort of negative feed here from mom toward the daughter. Moreover, she has a father there, Carl. I don't think he's married to mom, but maybe, but at any rate, her father is also the father of her daughter, Mongo, who is a child who has Down syndrome, and also is the father of the child she's pregnant with now. So she definitely has an unwholesome situation at home. And it's kind of amazing in the way that she kind of keeps herself together. She shows a good deal, I think, of internal strength, although obviously there are some desires to escape because of the fantasies which we are allowed to share. The morning comes, she goes to the school. She goes and meets a lady named Cornrose who more or less puts her through the paperwork. This being so, that morning of the first class, there was no money for food. She didn't eat anything. So she works a scam at a Southern Fried Chicken place, a little cafe that also featured that. She goes there and she orders a bucket of fried chicken, which seems a little bit unusual for early in the morning. But she does get it in the bucket, and she makes a request for a little potato salad after she's received a bucket. And when the waitress turns to the side to go and get it, she makes her way out, pressures with the bucket of chicken, and she's eating the chicken even as she goes. And the waitress, seeing this, said, "Oh no, she didn't do that, did she? Stop!" So anyway, the alarm goes off, but Clarice is hoofing it pretty much as fast as she can while still eating. She does make it to the school. She goes up, it's on the 11th floor, and she takes a kind of a position in a lobby. She gets nauseated, morning sickness, and she goes pukes and then settles back down. We see coming down the hall what appears to be a tall, slender young woman. It turns out to be Mrs. Rain. She is the teacher the assigned teacher for Clarice, and invites her in. There's a good deal of reluctance, but finally Clarice goes in, and she joins about 5 or 6 other gals in there. They are a disparate group in the way, in terms of personalities anyway, and they're kind of developing a pecking order amongst themselves. But at any rate, some of these people kind of stood out, I thought. One is the woman who played Joanne, the young woman, a tall, slender gal named Shawsa Ropemoor. And the lady who played, the gal who played Consuelo, by the last name of Zambrano, was also, I thought, a kind of a standout personality. But they were given slightly different personalities, and some stood out more than others, just en passant. But anyway, they had a period of adjusting to one another, and we have Mrs. Rain trying to get them to express themselves, to give their names, where they're from, what their favorite color was, and things of that sort, to sort of make them less strangers amongst each other. This was done, and we see a little bit of this educational process. Each time I will say this also, that just prior to going into this classroom for the first time, there is this characteristic look which Clarice has when she goes into a fantasy, so that there is the implication that for her, Ms. Rain occupies some sort of turf, some impressionary turf, not all that remote from the fairy godmother. Suggestive, anyway. And so we do experience the classroom thing for a little bit, and it's kind of interesting and entertaining. And these girls and Ms. Rain become a kind of an alternate family and support group for Clarice. Now, one of the assignments later on would be to give a little fairy tale, which the girls do. And when Clarice comes time to do this, it's also time for her baby to claim its birthday. So she's rushed to the hospital, and there she does have her baby. It's a little boy. She names him Abdul Jamal Jones. And so this kind of gets her thinking, and it kind of suggests to her that she has got to make it for them, and therefore she would. And she begins to think more of getting her daughter Mongo back too. Her daughter Mongo is used something like a prop by Mom when she is dealing with the social workers, welfare workers, and so forth that stop by and kind of check to see how things are going, and if she's trying to get a job and so forth like this. And there's something of a comical appearance of this, scene of this. And it also suggested that Mom, Mary, was a character not altogether different from Archie Bunker. It's sort of a black ghetto version of Archie Bunker. And some of the things in this particular scene would be very offensive if you stated it and so forth. And yet when you see it, because of the incongruity of it and so forth and the shock, it does have a certain comical aspect. Now, Mom's mom, that is the grandma of Clarice, is around, but she's a very quiet sort. She has, I think, a little fear of her daughter. And things kind of progress. Clarice meets Nurse John, who was there, and was a fascinating character to the gals. And he gives her a card with a $20 bill in it and stuff like this. So she's meeting some positive people. She takes her baby home, and Mom is there watching the TV and so forth in an apparently subdued kind of mood, and says words to the effect of, "Welcome back, Clarice. How's your baby?" and so forth, and "Can I take a look at your baby?" And the baby was brought over, and she said he looks like his father, meaning Carl, meaning her boyfriend or husband. And it's not long after this that she picks a fight. She accuses Clarice of trying to steal Carl and so forth. And Clarice says, "I didn't try, he raped me," and so forth. And before you know it, they're really having a knockdown, drag-out fight. Clarice grabs her baby and starts leaving the apartment. She's hit on the back as she goes with a pot, a plant pot. And she starts heading down the stairs with the baby. She falls, and at the bottom of the steps, she's trying to get her act together, and her mom drops the television set down, which she just barely escapes. So she's homeless now. She's left the horror of a house for homelessness on the street. It's cold, it's winter, it's not a pleasant aspect. It's not something you would do unless you had such a horrible alternate. So off she goes. Now once she's out, she does not know really where to go, and the only sanctuary she can think of is their school. So she goes there, and apparently she breaks the window to get in because the next morning when Ms. Rain and Cornrows show up, they find the window broken. Cornrows said, "I'm going to call the police." Ms. Rain goes back and discovers Precious sleeping with her baby. Sort of learning a little bit of what happened, Ms. Rain begins a process of trying to find Clarice and her baby, Abdul, a place to stay. Could not apparently do so, at least in the short term, and invites her to come home and stay with Ms. Rain and her significant other, Catherine. Now, Clarice is a little surprised at that situation at first, but as they are kindly to her and so forth like this, and considering the life that she has fled from, it is a time in the film in which it has generated an apologia for Ms. Rain and Catherine and this sort of situation, lifestyle. She has a chance, that is Clarice, to heal and get together a little bit. Now her mom makes it known to Mrs. Weiss that she would like to get together with her sister. She has something important to say. They do have a get-together, and she learns that Carl has died, that is, the father of her children, and he dies of AIDS. Mary said that she didn't know because Carl did not make any kind of indication that she interpreted as making her endangered. But she suggested that Clarice might need to see a clinic. And this is done. In fact, at the clinic, the author of the novel from which the screenplay for this comes acted a small role. Sapphire was her name in that clinic. So at any rate, we do have this situation. We have Clarice sort of determined now, encouraged by Ms. Rain and Catherine and others, to pursue her education. She's thinking about she will have her high school degree soon. Then she's thinking of college, and to have news of what happened to her father is something of a jeopardy. However, she is pretty much made up her mind to pursue an upward course, and there is, however, one more meeting with Mom at the welfare office with Ms. Weiss, and in this particular meeting, Mom makes a revelatory comment about herself and her lifestyle and her treatment of her daughter and so forth. When it was all done, Clarice kind of stood up and says words to the effect, "Well, I never did know what you were until now. You're not going to see me anymore." So she got together her child and Mongo too. She took a moment to tie her orange scarf around a neighborhood girl who appeared to be also a girl that might be in jeopardy of succumbing to the worst elements in the Harlem ghetto. And she marches out, that is Clarice, with her baby and Mongo, and headed for a new life, hopefully. So it ended on a note of uncertainty, but you know, you got to have faith. Well, that's a wrap, folks. We're out of time again. This is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I appreciate your tuning in. Hope to see you again at our next Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn.